We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore at all. 11:47 p.m., Tuesday night. The text glowed on my cracked iPhone screen as I pushed my janitor cart through the empty halls of Boston University. 29 years old, and my son David just cut me out of his life with 22 words. I screenshotted the message. Then I did something he'd never expect. I smiled. See, David thinks his old man is just Frank Wilson, the guy who mops floors and empties trash cans for $12 an hour. The guy who shops at Walmart and drives a rusted Honda Civic. The failure who embarrasses his Harvard Law graduate son. He has no idea I've been watching my Fidelity account hit $8.2 million. What I did next changed everything between us forever. Let me take you back to where this all started. 25 years ago, when David was 4 and his mother Sarah died in a car accident on Route 128. That night in the hospital, holding my son's tiny hand, I made him a promise. He'd never want for anything, ever. I kept that promise, but David never knew what it cost me. While he slept in his Spider-Man pajamas, I worked 3 jobs. Day shift maintenance at the university, evening shift at a downtown office building, weekend construction gigs that paid cash under the table. I'd come home at 2 a.m., check his homework, then catch 3 hours of sleep before starting again. When David was 7, he needed glasses. $430. I sold my father's vintage Rolex, the only thing I had left of him. When he was 10, his class took a trip to Washington, D.C. $350 I didn't have. I donated plasma twice a week for 2 months. High school came with bigger expenses. Private school tuition at Boston Latin, $15,000 a year. I picked up a 4th job delivering newspapers at 4 a.m. David never knew why I looked so tired all the time. But the real sacrifice, that came when he was 18. Harvard Law School, full tuition for 3 years, $243,000. You know what I did? I sold my grandmother's wedding ring, a 2-carat diamond she'd worn for 60 years before giving it to me. $12,000 at a pawn shop on Tremont Street. The rest came from loans I co-signed, using the house as collateral. David graduated summa cum laude. I watched him walk across that stage in his cap and gown, and I've never been prouder of anything in my life. He got hired at Brennan & Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious law firms. Starting salary, $180,000. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, David was driving a leased BMW 535i, wearing Armani suits that cost more than I made in a month, living in a high-rise apartment in Back Bay with views of the Charles River, and suddenly, I wasn't good enough anymore. It started small, canceled dinners, unreturned phone calls. Then he met Jessica Miller. Jessica's family owns Miller & Associates, a private investment bank that manages portfolios for Boston's elite. Old money, real money, the kind of people who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Aspen. The first time David brought her to meet me, I could see the calculation in her eyes. She looked at my work uniform, industrial laundry services, printed across the chest. She looked at my apartment, a cramped 1-bedroom in Dorchester where I'd lived since Sarah died. She looked at my hands, stained from 25 years of industrial cleaners, and she made her decision about who I was. 3 months later, David called me. This conversation I'll never forget, because I recorded it. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state, and something told me I'd need proof of what he was about to say. Dad, Jessica and I are getting engaged. That's wonderful, son. I'm so happy for you both. There's something we need to discuss about the engagement party. I waited. Her family is hosting it at their country club. Very exclusive. Very proper. And Dad, I need you to understand something. These people, they judge based on appearances. They wouldn't understand someone like you. Someone like me. What are you saying, David? I'm saying maybe it's better if you don't come. You smell like bleach and Pine Sol. You look like you shop at Goodwill. I can't have you there embarrassing me in front of Jessica's family. This is about my career, Dad. My future. I sat there in my kitchen, looking at the Harvard Law diploma I'd framed and hung on the wall. $243,000. A lifetime of sacrifice. And my son was ashamed of me. I understand, I said quietly. I'll respect your wishes. Good. I knew you'd understand. And Dad? Jessica thinks it might be best if we limit our contact. To avoid any awkward situations. He had no idea what I'd given up for him. The jobs I'd worked. The sleep I'd lost. The dreams I'd abandoned so he could chase his. But more importantly, he had no idea who I really was. Because while David was learning contract law and constitutional theory, I was learning about cryptocurrency. While he was studying for the bar exam, I was studying blockchain technology. In 2011, when Bitcoin was trading for $3 a coin, I took every spare penny from my construction work and bought in. I'd been watching my investment grow for 13 years, through every boom and crash, through every midnight shift and double overtime weekend. $8.2 million. My son thought I was a failure. Jessica's family thought I was beneath them. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. The humiliation reached its peak 3 weeks before their engagement party. David called me on a Saturday morning while I was fixing a clogged drain in the university library. My hands were covered in rubber gloves, and I was elbow deep in pipes when my phone rang. Dad, we need to talk about boundaries. Not hello? Not how are you? Boundaries. I'm listening, son. Jessica's been thinking about our situation, and she's right. It's not just about the engagement party anymore. It's about our future together. Her family moves in certain circles, and I need to be accepted in those circles if I'm going to advance my career. I pulled my hands out of the drain and sat back on my heels. A student walked by, probably heading to study for finals. She had no idea she was walking past a millionaire who was being disowned by his own son. What exactly are you asking me to do, David? I'm asking you to give us space. Real space. Jessica's father is considering bringing me into the family business. That's a partnership track worth millions. But he's very particular about image, about reputation. And I hurt your reputation. Dad, be honest. You're a janitor. You live in Dorchester. You drive a car that's older than my relationship with Jessica. When her friends ask what my father does, what am I supposed to say? The answer was simple. You say your father sacrificed everything so you could become the man you are today. But David wasn't looking for that answer. I work honest work, son. There's no shame in that. There's no shame, but there's no prestige either. Jessica's father went to Yale. Her mother sits on the board of 3 charities. Her brother runs a hedge fund. And my father cleans toilets. Each word hit like a physical blow, but I kept my voice steady, calm, because even as my son was destroying me, I was planning something he couldn't imagine. So what do you want me to do? I want you to understand that our contact needs to be minimal. Maybe a Christmas card, maybe a birthday call, but no visits, no dropping by my office, no showing up at restaurants where Jessica and I might be eating. I laughed, actually laughed, because 3 nights earlier I'd been having dinner at Grill 23, celebrating my Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high. The bill for my lobster and wine was more than David thought I made in a week. Is something funny, Dad? Nothing at all, just wondering if you remember who paid for that Harvard law degree. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. But that doesn't mean I owe you access to my entire life. I'm 29 years old. I'm building something here. Building something. On the foundation I'd laid with 25 years of sacrifice. David, let me ask you something. Do you remember when you were 12 and you wanted to go to baseball camp? Remember how I made it happen? Dad, don't. I worked a demolition job for 2 weeks straight, 16 hours a day in July heat. Came home with my hands bleeding and my back screaming. But you got your camp. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? How about when you needed your wisdom teeth out senior year? Insurance didn't cover it. $3,500. You know what I did? I sold my truck and walked to work for 6 months. Took 3 buses and walked 2 miles just so you could eat solid food again. Dad, stop. Or maybe we should talk about the night before your LSAT. You were having a panic attack, convinced you'd fail. I stayed up all night making you practice tests. brewing you coffee, telling you stories about your mother so you'd remember where you came from. You scored in the 99th percentile. Silence on the other end. You know what, David? You're right. You don't owe me access to your life. But let me tell you something about the man you're ashamed of. I've been recording this conversation. Massachusetts law allows it. And every word you've just said, every insult about my work, my neighborhood, my car, I've got it saved. You recorded me? I recorded my son telling me I'm an embarrassment. I recorded my son explaining why his blue-collar father isn't good enough for his white-collar friends. I recorded the boy I raised deciding that money matters more than the man who earned it. Dad, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what? I'm going to respect your wishes. You want space? You've got it. Don't worry about me embarrassing you anymore. I hung up and looked at my phone. The recording was saved. David disowns Dad 05 to 344A. 14 minutes and 37 seconds of my son explaining exactly what he thought of the man who'd given him everything. That conversation was recorded, and I kept every word. But David had no idea that his request for space was about to become the biggest mistake of his life. Because in 2 weeks, Jessica was hosting the most important charity gala of Boston's social season, the annual Miller Foundation benefit for underprivileged youth education, the same cause I'd been anonymously supporting through my own foundation for 15 years. I made 3 phone calls that afternoon to my financial advisor, to my lawyer, and to Jessica Miller herself. It was time to introduce myself properly. After that phone call, I sat in my apartment for 3 hours. Just sat there, looking at the walls I'd stared at for 25 years, the same kitchen table where I'd helped David with homework, the same couch where we'd watched Patriots games every Sunday. For a quarter century, my entire life had revolved around one thing: making sure my son had opportunities I never had. Every decision, every sacrifice, every moment of exhaustion, it all led to David becoming the man he was today. And the man he had become was ashamed of me. I opened my laptop and logged into my Fidelity account. $8,247,392. 13 years of careful investing. 13 years of watching Bitcoin rise from $3 to $68,000. 13 years of building wealth while living like I was broke. Why did I live like I was broke? Because every extra dollar went to David. His school, his clothes, his car insurance, his graduation party. Even now, at 29, I was still supporting him. That BMW lease? I co-signed it. His apartment security deposit? $8,500 from my account. The engagement ring he'd bought Jessica last month? $15,000 I'd quietly transferred to cover the surprise expense he couldn't afford on his salary. David thought he was successful. He had no idea he was still living on Daddy's money. I pulled up Jessica's charity website. The Miller Foundation Annual Gala. Supporting Educational Opportunities for Underprivileged Youth. May 26th at the Four Seasons Boston. $500 per plate. Expected attendance: 200 of Boston's most prominent citizens. The irony was perfect. For 15 years, I'd been anonymously donating to children's education through my own foundation, the Wilson Foundation. Scholarships for kids whose parents worked multiple jobs just to pay rent. Kids who understood what it meant to sacrifice. Kids who wouldn't forget where they came from. Last year alone, I'd donated $450,000. This year, I'd already committed $600,000. Jessica Miller had no idea that the biggest benefactor to her cause was the man her fiancé was ashamed to acknowledge. I picked up my phone and made the first call. Brennan Financial Management, this is Susan. Hi, Susan, this is Frank Wilson. I need to speak with Tom about making some moves in my portfolio. Tom Bradley had been my financial advisor for 8 years. He was one of only 3 people who knew about my real net worth. We'd met when I needed someone discreet to help manage my growing cryptocurrency gains. Frank, good to hear from you. What can I do? I need to liquidate $2 million in Bitcoin. I'm making a very large charitable donation. $2 million? That's quite a donation. Can I ask to which charity? The Miller Foundation. They're having a gala next Saturday. Tom whistled low. The Miller Foundation? Frank, that's old Boston money. Very exclusive. Are you sure you want to go that route? I'm sure. And Tom, I want this donation to be very public. Front page of the Globe Public. The second call was to my lawyer. Morrison and Associates, this is Janet. Janet, this is Frank Wilson. I need to speak with Robert about updating my will. Robert Morrison handled my legal affairs. Another one of the 3 people who knew the truth about my finances. Frank, you just updated your will 6 months ago. What's changed? Everything. I'm removing my son as beneficiary. I want everything to go to the Wilson Foundation upon my death. Frank, are you sure about this? This is a big decision. I've never been more sure of anything. Can you have the paperwork ready by Friday? Of course. But Frank, can I ask what happened? My son decided he doesn't want a relationship with his failure of a father. I'm simply respecting his wishes. The third call was the most important. Miller Foundation, this is Caroline speaking. Hi, Caroline, this is Frank Wilson. I'm calling about making a donation to Saturday's gala. Oh, wonderful. We love last-minute supporters. Our donation levels start at $5,000 for bronze sponsorship. I'd like to make $1 million donation, and I'd like to attend as your surprise keynote speaker. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, did you say $1 million? Yes. I run the Wilson Foundation. We focus on educational opportunities for underprivileged children. I think our missions align perfectly. Mr. Wilson, I need to transfer you to Jessica Miller immediately. Jessica came on the line 60 seconds later. Mr. Wilson, Caroline tells me you're interested in a substantial donation. Her voice was pure Boston Brahmin. Every syllable carefully controlled, every word chosen to convey superiority. The same voice that had dismissed me as beneath her family's social circle. Ms. Miller, I've been following your foundation's work for years. I'd like to contribute $1 million to Saturday's gala. In return, I'd like to speak about the importance of recognizing the hidden heroes in our children's lives. Hidden heroes? The parents who sacrifice everything for their children's success. The ones who work multiple jobs, who give up their dreams, who remain invisible so their children can shine. That's a beautiful sentiment, Mr. Wilson. $1 million would make you our largest single donor this year. I'm honored to support the cause. I believe every child deserves opportunities regardless of their background. Absolutely. Mr. Wilson, would you mind if I asked what the Wilson Foundation does specifically? We provide scholarships for children whose parents work blue-collar jobs, children who might otherwise never see the inside of a college classroom. Perfect. I just told Jessica exactly who I was without her realizing it. That's wonderful work. We'd be honored to have you speak. Shall we say 8 p.m. after dinner? Perfect. I'll see you Saturday night. I hung up and smiled. In 4 days, David and Jessica would learn exactly who they'd been dismissing. They still had no idea who they were dealing with. Monday morning, I woke up with a plan. Not just any plan, a masterpiece of quiet revenge that would unfold in stages. First, I needed to make some noise in the right circles. I called Tom Bradley again. Tom, about that Miller Foundation donation, I want it to hit the Boston Globe today. Make sure they understand this is the largest single donation in the Foundation's 40-year history. You want media attention? Frank, that's not usually your style. Things change. I want everyone in Boston to know that the Wilson Foundation is supporting children's education in a big way. I'll make some calls. The Globe's business section loves this kind of story. By noon, my phone was ringing. Rebecca Walsh from the Boston Globe. Mr. Wilson, this is Rebecca Walsh from the Globe's Metro section. We understand you've made a significant donation to the Miller Foundation. $1 million. The Wilson Foundation believes in supporting organizations that create opportunities for underprivileged children. Can you tell me about the Wilson Foundation? Our research shows it's been operating quietly for 15 years. We prefer to let our actions speak louder than our publicity. This year alone, we've provided scholarships totaling $600,000 to children whose parents work blue-collar jobs. Construction workers, janitors, food service employees, people who understand the value of hard work. That's remarkable. Can you share some specific examples? I'd been waiting for this question. Certainly, Maria Santos, whose father works construction, full ride to Northeastern University. James Murphy, whose mother cleans office buildings, 4-year scholarship to UMass Boston. Lisa Chen, whose parents run a small restaurant. MIT engineering program, all expenses paid. Mr. Wilson, your foundation has given away millions over the years, but you've maintained complete anonymity. Why go public now? Because I think it's time people understood that heroes come in work uniforms. The parents who sacrifice everything for their children's education, they deserve recognition. Will you be attending Saturday's gala? I'll be speaking about the importance of recognizing hidden heroes in our communities. The article ran Tuesday morning. Front page of the Metro section, anonymous millionaire emerges to support youth education. The photo showed a stock image of students in graduation caps, but the story was all about the mysterious Wilson Foundation and its blue-collar benefactor. I bought 5 copies and left one on the break room table at work. By Tuesday afternoon, David had seen it. He called me for the first time in 3 weeks. Dad, did you see this article in the Globe about some foundation? What article? The Wilson Foundation. They donated $1 million to Jessica's gala. Can you believe that? Same last name as us. Jessica's over the moon about it. Apparently this guy's been anonymously supporting kids for years. That's nice, son. Nice. Dad, this is huge. This Wilson guy is going to be the keynote speaker Saturday night. Jessica says he's worth at least $10 million. Built his fortune from nothing. Supports blue-collar families. Her father is talking about offering him investment opportunities. I nearly laughed out loud. Sounds like an impressive man. The best part? Jessica's been researching his background. Apparently he started investing in cryptocurrency back in 2011. Can you imagine? If you'd known about Bitcoin back then, you'd have told me it was a stupid waste of money. Just like you told me about every other investment idea I'd ever mentioned. Well, I'm glad Jessica's event is going well. Dad, Jessica feels terrible about what happened before, about asking you not to come to the engagement party. She says she was worried about mixing social circles, but after meeting this Wilson guy, she realizes that success comes in many forms. That's very enlightened of her. Would you maybe want to come to the gala Saturday? I know it's last minute, but Jessica could probably arrange a ticket. I paused, the moment I'd been waiting for. I don't know, son. $500 is a lot of money for a janitor. Dad, come on. I'll cover your ticket. Jessica wants to meet you properly. She says she was wrong to judge before getting to know you. What changed her mind? This Wilson Foundation story. She says it made her realize that some of the most generous people are the ones you'd never expect. People who work regular jobs but have big hearts. If only she knew. I appreciate the offer, David, but I wouldn't want to embarrass you. Remember what you said about appearances? Dad, forget what I said. That was wrong. Jessica agrees. She wants to apologize in person. She wants to apologize. Yes, she feels terrible about the whole thing, and honestly, after reading about this Wilson guy, I feel terrible too. Here's this millionaire who remembers where he came from, who supports people like you. It made me think about what's really important. People like me. Oh, David, if you only knew. Let me think about it. Please, Dad. Jessica's really excited about this event. She's been working on it for months. Having this Wilson guy speak is going to make her career. Her father is so impressed. I'm sure he is. Dad, will you come? I know things have been weird between us, but this could be a fresh start. A fresh start. That's exactly what Saturday night was going to be. Okay, son, I'll come. Really? That's great. Jessica will be so relieved. She's been feeling guilty about everything. After I hung up, I sat back and smiled. David was inviting his father to watch his father humiliate him in front of 200 of Boston's elite. He was so excited about the mysterious millionaire who was going to speak at his fiancée's gala. He had no idea he'd been living on that millionaire's money his entire life. Wednesday morning, the Globe ran a follow-up story. Wilson Foundation scholarships change lives. Rebecca Walsh had done her homework, interviewing 3 of my scholarship recipients. The article included quotes from parents who worked as housekeepers, mechanics, and yes, janitors, whose children were now doctors, engineers, and lawyers. I left that article on the break room table too. Thursday, Jessica called me directly. "Mr. Wilson, this is Jessica Miller, David's fiancée." "Hello, Jessica." "Mr. Wilson, I owe you an enormous apology. I was completely wrong about everything. David told me what I said about appearances, and I'm mortified. After reading about the Wilson Foundation's work, I realize I made terrible assumptions." "These things happen." "No, they don't. There's no excuse for my behavior. I hope you'll give me a chance to make it right Saturday night. I'm looking forward to meeting you properly. Mr. Wilson, can I ask you something? What do you think of this Wilson Foundation donor? The man who's speaking Saturday?" I smiled. "I think he sounds like someone who understands the value of hard work and sacrifice." That's exactly what I thought. David and I have been talking about it all week. This man represents everything we should admire. Success without forgetting your roots. He sounds like quite a man. He does. I can't wait to meet him. Oh, Jessica, you're going to meet him sooner than you think. Friday night, 24 hours before the gala that would change everything. I was working my regular shift at Seasons Restaurant, a high-end place in Back Bay, where I handled the after-hours cleaning. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths that cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. I was emptying trash bins in the main dining room when I heard familiar voices from the private dining area. David and Jessica having dinner with her parents. I should have left. Should have finished my work and disappeared into the back hallways where the staff belonged. But something made me stay. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need to see them in their natural habitat, surrounded by the wealth and privilege that made them forget people like me existed. I pushed my cart closer, keeping my head down, moving slowly enough to listen. "The Wilson Foundation speaker tomorrow night," Jessica's father was saying. "I've been researching his background. Very impressive. Built his wealth from cryptocurrency investments starting in 2011. "Smart man," David replied. "Takes vision to see opportunities that early." "Indeed. The kind of man we need more of in Boston. Self-made, but still connected to working families. My kind of philanthropist." Jessica laughed. "I keep thinking about what he said in that interview. About heroes in work uniforms. It's so true. Some of the most admirable people are the ones we never notice." "Like your janitor friend here," her mother said, nodding toward me as I emptied their breadbasket into the trash. "I'm sure he works very hard to support his family." They were talking about me like I wasn't there, like I was furniture with legs. "Mom, don't," Jessica said quietly. "We've talked about this. People like him deserve respect." People like him. "You're right, darling. It's just, well, tomorrow night we'll meet someone who proves you can come from nothing and build something extraordinary. This Wilson fellow gives me hope for the working class." I moved to the next table, close enough to hear David's response. "Jessica's been talking about that all week. How wrong we were to judge people by their jobs. After reading about the Wilson Foundation, I feel terrible about how I treated my father." "Your father?" "He's a janitor. Works at Boston University. And I told him he couldn't come to our engagement party, said he would embarrass me." Jessica's father looked uncomfortable. "That seems harsh." It was harsh. It was wrong. Jessica made me realize that. This Wilson Foundation story made us both realize that some of the most generous, most successful people are the ones you'd never suspect. "So you're making amends?" her mother asked. "He's coming tomorrow night," Jessica said proudly. "I personally invited him. I want to apologize for my behavior." "Good for you, dear. Family should come first." I moved closer to their table, pretending to wipe down an unused chair. Close enough to smell Jessica's expensive perfume. Close enough to see the Cartier watch on David's wrist, the one I'd helped him buy last Christmas. "Excuse me," Jessica said suddenly, looking directly at me. "Could you bring us more bread?" "I'm not a server, ma'am. just cleaning." "Oh, sorry." She looked embarrassed. "I should have known better." Should have known better, because people like me only clean, never serve. We exist in the background, invisible until someone needs us to disappear. "It's fine," I said quietly. "Actually," David said, his voice taking on the tone he used when he wanted to sound magnanimous, "what's your name?" He was looking right at me, his own father, and he was asking my name like we'd never met. "Frank," I said. "Frank, you do good work here. The place always looks spotless." "Thank you, sir." "Sir?" My son called me sir. "Frank," Jessica added, "do you have children?" The question hit like a physical blow. "I have a son." "How wonderful. What does he do?" I looked at David, waiting for recognition, waiting for him to realize he was having a conversation with his own father. But his face was blank, polite, the way you look at someone you've never seen before. "He's a lawyer," I said. "That's fantastic. You must be very proud." I was, past tense, because the son I'd raised was gone, replaced by this stranger who called me sir and asked about my family like he wasn't part of it. "Well, Frank, keep up the good work," David said, turning back to his wine. I finished cleaning their table in silence. As I pushed my cart away, I heard Jessica whisper to her parents, "See, that's exactly what the Wilson Foundation speaker was talking about. That man probably sacrificed everything for his son's education. People like him are the real heroes." People like him. That's when I knew there was no going back. Saturday morning, the day of reckoning. I woke up at 5 a.m., not because my alarm went off, but because I couldn't sleep. In 14 hours, I'd be standing on a stage at the Four Seasons, revealing the truth to 200 of Boston's most influential people, including my son, who still had no idea what was coming. The morning started with a text from David. "Dad, really looking forward to tonight. Jessica's so excited to meet you properly. This Wilson Foundation guy has changed everything for us." Changed everything. He had no idea how accurate that was. By 8 a.m., the Boston Globe was running another story about the gala. Tonight's Miller Foundation gala expected to raise record funds. The article mentioned that mysterious philanthropist Frank Wilson would be delivering the keynote address about hidden heroes in our communities. Social media was buzzing. Jessica had been posting about the event all week on her Instagram account, which had 12,000 followers of Boston's young elite. Her latest post showed the Four Seasons ballroom being decorated. "Tonight we celebrate the power of education and the generous souls who make dreams possible. Honored to host Boston's most impactful philanthropist." The comments section was full of speculation about the mysterious Wilson Foundation founder. "Can't wait to meet this guy. Finally, a millionaire who remembers where he came from. Love that he supports blue-collar families." This is what real success looks like. David had shared the post, adding his own comment. "My fiancé's incredible work brings together people who truly understand the value of sacrifice and hard work. Sacrifice and hard work." The irony was perfect. By noon, Channel 5 News was setting up outside the Four Seasons. The gala had become the social event of the season, thanks to the mystery surrounding the Wilson Foundation and its founder. I spent the afternoon getting ready, not just physically, but mentally. I'd rehearsed my speech a dozen times, memorizing every number, every detail, every pause for maximum impact. The speech that would destroy my son's world and rebuild it from scratch. At 3 p.m., Jessica called me again. "Mr. Wilson, I'm getting so nervous about tonight. I've never hosted an event this big before." "You'll do fine. The cause speaks for itself." "Mr. Wilson, can I ask you something personal? What made you decide to support children's education specifically?" "I believe every child deserves opportunities, regardless of their parents' occupation. A janitor's son should have the same chance at Harvard Law as a banker's son." "That's beautiful. You know, David's father is a janitor at Boston University. He's coming tonight, and I'm so excited to meet him properly. Your foundation's work made me realize how wrong I was to judge him. I'm sure he'll appreciate that." "I hope so. David feels terrible about how we treated him. We both do. Reading about your work made us understand that some of the most successful people are the ones you'd never suspect. You'd be surprised who's sitting right under your nose. I'm sure I would be. Mr. Wilson, do you think you'd have time to meet David's father tonight? I think you two would have a lot in common. Both supporters of education, both understanding the value of hard work. I'd be honored to meet him. At 4 p.m., the Globe published a special online edition, Wilson Foundation, The Numbers Behind the Generosity. Rebecca Walsh had done deep research, publishing 15 years of scholarship statistics. 43 students supported through college. Total donations of $4.2 million. Average family income of recipients, $31,000. The article included a powerful quote from Maria Santos. Now a nurse practitioner, Mr. Wilson saved my family. My father worked 3 jobs to support us, and there was no way we could afford college. The Wilson Foundation didn't just pay for my education, they restored my father's dignity. Someone finally recognized his sacrifice. David texted me the article link. Dad, you need to read this. This Wilson guy is incredible. Look at these numbers. Look at what he's done for families like ours. Families like ours. If only he knew. At 6 p.m., I was sitting in my apartment, looking at the only good suit I owned, a navy blue from Men's Warehouse that I'd bought for David's law school graduation. The same suit I'd worn to watch him walk across that Harvard stage, never dreaming that 7 years later he'd be ashamed to acknowledge me. I put on the suit, checked my reflection, and picked up the manila folder containing 25 years of evidence. Bank statements, receipts, scholarship documents, the recorded conversation from 3 weeks ago, everything I'd need to prove who I really was. At 6:30, my phone rang. Tom Bradley, my financial advisor. Frank, are you sure about tonight? Once you do this, there's no taking it back. I've never been more sure of anything. Your son's going to be there? Front row. Frank, this is going to destroy him. No, Tom, this is going to save him. He's forgotten who he is, where he came from. Tonight, I'm going to remind him. At 7 p.m., I called an Uber. 20-minute ride to the Four Seasons. The night that would expose everything was about to begin. During the ride to the Four Seasons, I opened the manila folder one final time. 25 years of evidence, organized chronologically. 25 years of proof that would shatter every assumption David and Jessica had made about me. Page 1. David's birth certificate. Born September 15th, 1995. Father, Frank Wilson. Mother, Sarah Elizabeth Wilson. Page 2. Sarah's death certificate. January 23rd, 2000. The day my world ended and my sacrifice began. Pages 3 through 7. Elementary school receipts. Private tutoring. $2,400. School supplies and uniforms. $1,800. Field trips and activities. $950. All paid in cash because credit was a luxury I couldn't afford. Page 8. The receipt from Crown Pawn Shop. Grandmother's diamond ring, appraised at $18,000, sold for $12,000. Date, March 15th, 2010. Reason, David needed glasses and was getting bullied at school for wearing broken frames held together with tape. Pages 9 through 15. High school expenses. Boston Latin tuition, $15,000 per year for 4 years. SAT prep course, $1,200. College application fees, $800. Graduation expenses, $450. Total, $61,450. Pages 16 through 22, the Harvard years. Tuition receipts showing $243,000 paid over 3 years. Room and board deposits, $18,500. Textbooks, $3,200. Bar exam preparation, $2,800. Graduation ceremony expenses, $650. Total, $268,150. Page 23. The BMW lease cosigner agreement. Monthly payments, $847. I'd been covering half of that for 2 years. David thought his law firm's salary was enough to afford luxury. He had no idea his father was still supplementing his lifestyle. Page 24. Apartment lease cosigner agreement. Security deposit, $8,500 paid from my account. First month's rent, $3,200. Moving expenses, $1,100. Total, $12,800. Page 25. Engagement ring financing agreement. Cartier, 2.1 carat solitaire. Purchase price, $28,000. David's down payment, $13,000. My loan to cover the difference, $15,000. He'd told Jessica he'd saved for months to afford it. He'd actually called me the day before proposing, panicking because he was short. Pages 26 through 30. Wilson Foundation tax returns, 2009 to 2024. Total charitable donations, $4.2 million. Recipient demographics, 94% from blue-collar families. Average parent income, $31,000. Success rate, 89% graduation rate, compared to 67% national average. Page 31, My Fidelity Investment Summary. Current balance, $8,247,392. Initial Bitcoin investment, December 2011, $3,200. Current Bitcoin holdings, 127.3 coins at $64,500 each. Total crypto value, $8,211,000. Other investments, $392. Page 32, the recording transcript. David's voice, legally recorded. You smell like bleach and pine sol. You look like you shop at Goodwill. I can't have you there embarrassing me. The Uber pulled up to the Four Seasons. Through the windows, I could see elegantly dressed people walking through the lobby. Boston's elite, gathering to celebrate charity and generosity. They had no idea that the biggest donor in the room had just arrived in a Honda Civic, wearing a Men's Warehouse suit. I walked through the lobby, past marble columns and crystal chandeliers, past women in designer gowns and men in custom tuxedos, past the kind of wealth and privilege that had convinced my son I wasn't worthy of his acknowledgement. The ballroom was magnificent. 200 seats arranged around circular tables, each centerpiece featuring white roses and gold accents. A stage at the front with a podium and microphone. Behind the stage, a banner. Miller Foundation Annual Gala, Building Dreams Through Education. Jessica was near the entrance, greeting guests. She looked stunning in a black evening gown, her hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. She was laughing with a group of older women, probably the charity board members. David stood beside her in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. He looked confident, successful. Every inch the rising star attorney he'd become, the man I'd sacrificed everything to create. Mr. Wilson! Jessica spotted me first. You made it! She rushed over, all smiles and nervous energy. Behind her, David followed, his face lighting up with recognition. Dad, you look great! He hugged me, and for a moment, I almost weakened. This was my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd helped create. In 30 minutes, I was going to humiliate him in front of everyone he wanted to impress. Thank you for coming, Jessica said. I'm so excited for you to meet our keynote speaker. He should be arriving any minute. I'm looking forward to it, I said. Dad, you're going to love this guy, David added. He's everything you always taught me about working hard and staying humble. Real success story. Real success story. Standing right in front of him. I'm sure he is, I said. Jessica checked her watch. Oh, I should go check on the catering. Mr. Wilson should be here soon. Dad, find your table. You're at table 12. We made sure you have a perfect view of the stage. Perfect view. That was exactly what I wanted. As they walked away, I heard David tell someone, That's my father. Finally getting to introduce him properly. I'm so proud of him. Proud of me. After 3 weeks of shame, he was proud of me. In 20 minutes, we'd see how proud he really was. 7:30 p.m. The Four Seasons ballroom was full. I sat at table 12, surrounded by strangers, who made polite conversation about the weather and the stock market. To my left, a real estate developer worth $40 million. To my right, a pharmaceutical executive whose wife wore diamonds worth more than most people's houses. They were friendly enough, the kind of surface-level Boston politeness that acknowledged my presence without really seeing me. When they asked what I did for work, I said maintenance. and watched their interest politely evaporate. David and Jessica sat at the head table, 20 feet away. Jessica kept checking her phone, presumably waiting for word from the mysterious keynote speaker who hadn't arrived yet. "Ladies and gentlemen," the event coordinator announced, "dinner is served." 3 courses of food I couldn't pronounce, served by waiters who made more in tips tonight than I made in a week. I picked at the lobster bisque and watched David charm the table with stories about his legal victories. At 8:15, Jessica stood up and walked to the podium. The room quieted. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Miller Foundation's most important gala in our 40-year history." Applause filled the ballroom. I clapped along, just another supporter in the crowd. Tonight, we celebrate not just the power of education, but the hidden heroes who make education possible. The parents who work multiple jobs. The families who sacrifice luxury for their children's futures. The quiet champions who believe in dreams even when they can't afford them. More applause. David was beaming, proud of his fiancée's eloquence. This year, we've been blessed with the most generous donation in our foundation's history. $1 million from the Wilson Foundation, an organization that has quietly supported underprivileged students for 15 years. The applause grew louder. People were nodding, impressed by the mysterious benefactor's generosity. The Wilson Foundation's founder has agreed to speak with us tonight about the importance of recognizing sacrifice and honoring the working families who build our communities. Please join me in welcoming Frank Wilson. The applause was thunderous. 200 people rising to their feet to welcome the mysterious millionaire philanthropist. I stood up from table 12 and walked toward the stage. At first, nobody noticed. Just another guest heading to the restroom or the bar. But as I stepped onto the platform and approached the podium, confusion rippled through the crowd. Jessica's face went white. David's mouth fell open. I adjusted the microphone and looked out at 200 of Boston's most influential people. In the front row, David sat frozen, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and dawning horror. "Good evening," I said. "My name is Frank Wilson." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. "Most of you don't know me, but my son does." I looked directly at David. "Hi, David." David's face had gone pale. Jessica looked like she might faint. 3 weeks ago, my son sent me a text message. He told me he needed space, that I shouldn't reach out anymore, ever. I pulled out my phone and held it up. The text came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night while I was working my shift as a janitor at Boston University. Murmurs started in the crowd, people turning to each other, trying to understand what was happening. You see, David was embarrassed by his father, and I understand why. I smell like bleach and pine sol. I look like I shop at Goodwill. I drive a car older than his relationship with Jessica. I'm everything he's tried to leave behind. I opened the manila folder on the podium. But tonight, I want to tell you about sacrifice, about what it really means to support your child's education. I held up the first document. David's Harvard Law School tuition, $243,000. Paid in full by his embarrassing father. Gasps from the audience. David's face was now completely white. His apartment security deposit, $8,500 from my account. His BMW lease, which I co-sign and partially fund. His engagement ring, a $15,000 loan from the man he's ashamed to acknowledge. The room was dead silent, except for the sound of Jessica quietly crying. For 25 years, I've lived in the same one-bedroom apartment in Dorchester. I've worn the same work uniforms. I've driven the same car, not because I couldn't afford better, but because every extra dollar went to my son's future. I held up my fidelity statement. My net worth is $8.2 million. Built from cryptocurrency investments, I started making in 2011, while David was studying for his LSATs with tutors I paid for. When the crowd was staring, some were taking pictures. This was going to be front-page news tomorrow. The Wilson Foundation has donated $4.2 million over 15 years. 43 students from blue-collar families have received full college scholarships. Children whose parents work as janitors, construction workers, food service employees, people like me. I looked at David again, Tears were streaming down his face. 3 weeks ago, my son told me I would embarrass him in front of his fiance's family. He asked me to disappear from his life. And you know what? I respected his wishes. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. David's voice filled the ballroom. You smell like bleach and pine sol. You look like you shop at Goodwill. I can't have you there embarrassing me. The room erupted in whispers. People were staring at David, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. So David got what he wanted, space from his embarrassing father, but he also got something he didn't expect. I held up the updated will. As of yesterday, my estate goes entirely to the Wilson Foundation. Every penny of my $8.2 million will support children whose parents understand the value of sacrifice. Jessica was sobbing now. David had put his head in his hands. You see, David learned everything about success from me, except the most important lesson, gratitude. I looked out at the shocked faces in the crowd. Tonight, you've met one of those hidden heroes you came here to celebrate. A janitor who raised a Harvard lawyer, a man who sacrificed everything so his son could sit at tables like this. I paused, letting that sink in. But David decided that where he came from was less important than where he was going. He chose status over family, appearance over character, and that's his choice to make. I closed the folder and looked at David one final time. You wanted space, son. You have it. But remember this. Every success you've achieved, every opportunity you've had, every advantage you've enjoyed, it all came from the man you were ashamed to call father. I stepped back from the podium. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. The ballroom erupted. Some people were applauding. Others were sitting in stunned silence. Reporters were frantically taking notes. The society photographer was snapping pictures of David's shocked face. As I walked off the stage, I heard Jessica's voice behind me. Mr. Wilson, please wait. I turned around. She was running after me, her evening gown rustling. Mr. Wilson, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. We had no idea. You had no idea because you never asked. You saw a janitor and made your assumptions. David appeared beside her, his face streaked with tears. Dad, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, David. You made your choice very clear. Dad, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, we can fix this. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd created. Some things can't be fixed, David. They can only be learned from. What do you mean? I mean you got what you asked for. Space. Respect your own boundaries. I walked toward the exit, leaving behind 200 shocked faces and one broken son who finally understood the cost of shame. The Boston Globe photographer caught me at the door. Mr. Wilson, can we get a statement? Print this, I said. A parent's love is unconditional, but a parent's respect must be earned. And then I walked out into the Boston night, a free man for the first time in 25 years. Sunday morning, the Boston Globe headline read, Millionaire Janitor Shocks, Elite at Charity Gala. The article covered everything. David's rejection, my hidden wealth, the revelation at the Four Seasons. Rebecca Walsh had interviewed 3 people who attended the gala, all expressing shock at the evening's events. I've never seen anything like it, said real estate mogul Catherine Brennan. This man sacrificed everything for his son's success, only to be rejected for his social status. It was heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. The story went viral. By Monday morning, it was trending on social media. Videos from the gala had been posted on Instagram and TikTok. Someone had recorded my entire speech and uploaded it to YouTube, where it gained 2 million views in 24 hours. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. This is what real parenting looks like. That son is going to regret this for the rest of his life. Respect to Frank Wilson, a true hero. But some defended David. The father should have told him about the money years ago. This was public humiliation, not justice. Family business should stay private. Tuesday morning, David showed up at my apartment. I watched him through the peephole for 2 minutes before deciding not to answer. He left 17 text messages. Dad, please talk to me. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jessica broke off the engagement. I lost everything because I lost you. Please give me another chance. I read every message. I felt the pain in his words, but I didn't respond. Wednesday, my lawyer called. Frank, David's been trying to reach me. He wants to know about contesting the will. Can he? He could try. Might claim undue influence or emotional distress. But honestly, after that recording, after the public documentation of his rejection, he doesn't have a case? Thursday, the Wilson Foundation received its largest donation week in 15 years. Inspired by the news story, people across Boston contributed over $200,000. 3 new students would receive full scholarships. Friday, I went back to work. Same uniform, same cart, same university halls. But everything was different. Students recognized me. Faculty nodded respectfully. I wasn't invisible anymore. At 11:47 p.m., exactly 1 month after David's original text, my phone buzzed. Dad, I understand if you never forgive me, but I need you to know you were right about everything. I became someone I don't recognize, someone who forgot the most important man in my life. I'm trying to find my way back to who you raised me to be. I love you. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Some distances take time to cross. Some lessons take years to learn. The space David wanted, he had it. Whether he'd earned the right to close it again remained to be seen.